Welcome to Google Ads Unleashed, the podcast that helps you harness the power of Google Ads. And now your host, Jeremy Young.
Welcome back to Google Ads Unleashed, guys. Hope everyone is doing fabulously this Monday. Is the learning phase actually bullshit? I have actually asked myself this a couple of times because it's one of the things, first of all, when you actually search for Google Ads, it's one of the first answers and one of the first things that come with Answer the Public UK. It's also one of the top searches that a lot of people search about all the time. And I've realized I've never done an episode on it. So I want to talk about what it is, what triggers it, what it isn't, what it's a sign of, because it's been talked about quite a bit and I just want to demystify the whole thing a little bit. So let's dive right in. So what is the learning phase? So when you actually launch a campaign or make a significant change, smart bidding needs time to gather data and calibrate. We all know that, right? So for instance, a TCPA needs at least 30 conversions and that's normal, right? An algorithm needs data and needs a lot of data to do its thing. Without data, it can't do its thing. And when you actually make changes or even launch a campaign, whatever, there's a period where Google is testing which products, which keywords, which search terms, whatever it is, what auctions do I need to enter, how much to bid, whatever, in order to achieve the target that I want to achieve, and to get user to convert. And performance during the learning phase, typically this is across Meta, is the same as in Google, the same. Sometimes volatile, CPA spike, there's ROAS swing, spend can erratic, and that is usually completely normal. So what triggers it? It's launching a new campaign. So brand new campaigns, of course, launch it. Changing bidding strategies is a big one. For instance, if you change from, let's say, max conversions to TCPA or from max conversion value to TROAS and so on. Significant budget changes, usually my sort of rule of thumb, and that is why I've always said to people, don't increase your budgets more than 20 to 30%. So the commonly cited rule is sort of plus minus 20% is sort of the maximum. Anything above that triggers the learning phase again. Changing conversion goals or changing conversion actions can trigger it. So if you add a new conversion action and start learning towards that, well, Google needs to learn the conversion action and change its bid strategies, right? Major edits to targeting, so for instance, deleting complete countries or large-scale changes, for instance, to ads. Do this as well if you change your ads out completely or all of your assets. Or also what does it is if you pause campaigns for quite a long time and then restarted. So essentially all of those are big structural changes, not like smaller changes to your ad account. And to be honest, when I'm going to list now what doesn't trigger it, it kind of makes sense what I'm on about here. So for instance, what doesn't trigger it are small bidding adjustments, such as nudging target ROAS a little bit, like from 400 down to 380, or a little TCPA change. That generally doesn't cause a reset. Adding negative keywords doesn't cause a reset. Pausing poor performing ads or keywords or products doesn't actually cause a reset, and also adding new ads to ad groups. All of those sort of small things are minor. So all of the small things that don't actually impact the algorithm to do a massive change is what does not trigger the learning phase. All of the stuff that you do change and are massive, those are what re-trigger the learning phase. What is quite important is that to understand that there's no such thing as like campaigns learn everything now, right? In theory, all campaigns are learning all the time, right? So because that's what algorithms do. They get new data points, things change, competitors may creep up, and then the algorithm adjusts, and it's always learning. So the learning phase just marks the period of the highest instability at the following quite a seismic change within settings or everything else. It usually lasts about 7 days, according to, that's what Google, but sometimes it depends on a few other factors, for instance, how big the account is, or on how often you made changes in between. But generally speaking, it actually depends on conversion volume, right? If you have crazy budget and launch an ad, and you know that you're going to get a huge conversion volume, well, the learning phase is going to be exited pretty fast, right? Fail fast, learn fast is generally what Google lives here. So if you get 50 conversions a week in a campaign, well, the campaign will exit the learning phase much faster than one just getting 5, right? Much, much, much easy. By the way, you may also want to go back to my episode, How Many Conversions Do You Really Need? That is basically explaining pretty well how many conversions do you need to achieve periods of stability where you can actually draw upon the advantages of completed learning phases and using automated bid strategies, right? So go back to that. That's actually something that's quite important to understand and will be able to help you choose and make the right decisions. Okay, so learning phase. Typically, why is it a bad thing? Well, I'm going to get to that. It's actually not always bad. But typically it's because it launches a period of small instability where results may not be as accurate as you want them to, okay? And what triggers it are sort of common behaviors and patterns of behaviors, which I see time and time again, which is the pattern of beginners and the pattern of people who just don't know what they're doing, okay? And the first thing is panic changes. Something that I see time and time again is people are changing too many things because Google ads don't work or whatever, and they change crazy number of variables all the bastard time and don't give the algorithm enough chance to learn and to actually do its job. So they launch something, performance wobbles as expected, they make a panic change to the bid strategy, to the budget, to the target, whatever, learning resets, there's more volatility, more panic, rinse and repeat, right? I see that time and time again and it gets on my fucking nerves. Stop doing it, make a change, wait till it's actually taken effect, have stabilized performance, and then get on from there. And that is because those types of advertisers never see the stabilized performance because they never fucking allow it to happen, right? So this is something that is a common thing that I see. This goes hand in hand with this. I call it the daily fiddler or the ongoing theorists. They equate activity with competence. I've done a podcast episode about this, and in fact, one of my esteemed colleagues, Bob Meyer from the PPC Hub, I've attended a really, really good sort of masterclass with him early in the year in Amsterdam, where he basically called it, what did he call it? Stop being busy and actually manage your Google Ads account. What I mean by that, lots of people equate doing stuff like, oh, here's another negative keyword, or here this, and here's a calibration. They equate that with activity and with progress, and it's actually regress, right? So what I would do, go back to the episode Patience Why Doing Less is More Sometimes episode. This is sort of the algorithmic explanation of why patience pays off in Google Ads. Then the next thing is big budget jumps. Now, I don't hate big budget jumps if they are justified and if you can take the risk. But one rule of thumb is incremental increases, right? 20 to 30% maximum is great, spaced out over enough time. Let's say every 4 days or weekly is amazing for the system to adjust bit by bit and to also get your budget tripled in weeks. Yeah, and that with confidence rather than in days without confidence, right? Then another sort of very common pattern that I see is bid strategy hopping, I call it. So people swap from max conversions to TCPA. Oh, it doesn't work. Then they swap back to max conversions. Then they try target ROAS. Then they do this. Fucking pick one target that fits your strategy and go with it, right? Pick one tactic that fits your strategy and go with it and just ride out the storm, my friend. Each switch is a full reset of the bit of the learning phase, and accounts never accumulate enough data then to do its thing. They all sort of tie in together, all the points that I'm kind of seeing. But yeah, that's very, very important. Then the next point is seasonal panic and pausing. So I see very many advertisers just pausing their ad accounts because, well, I'm on holiday or shit like that, or they pause it during quiet periods and then think they can restart them later and just, go back to normal. Wrong. That re-triggers the learning phase, and usually I've sometimes even seen accounts never return to the previous performance doing this. So never ever do that. Use seasonality bid adjustments or data exclusions, and also try to work towards those events in advance rather than making sudden swings, okay? And then lastly, restructures, right? People who launch new campaigns all the time or throw everything down and then try to rebuild every 3 weeks, that just does not work. So that restructures that, and it interrupts learning. Okay, so what is sort of a few things that you should be doing? Batch your changes. One consolidated update with cause and effect gives you much better idea of what works and what is actually driving or not working, and also minimizes disruptions. Respect the 20% to 30% budget rule. Use seasonality bid adjustments. Set a no-touch window after significant changes. And do not judge your performance based on snapshots. Judge it based on the period that is important to your business. I've done an episode on that as well. Go back on that. When should you actually interrupt learning? So my message here wasn't really actually to never touch anything. So of course, if tracking's broken, you need, or if spend is running away with 0 conversions after a meaningful sample, then you should probably do something about it. You have to intervene. So the skill is to distinguish expected learning volatility from actual genuine malfunction here. And this also just comes with practice and experience, right? What is actually the problem, or is this like a performance swing that is expected? Okay. But I also want to dive into something that is quite important here. Now, something that I really fucking hate, to be honest, is that people blow up the learning phase as something crazy that you need to really always take into account. And in my opinion, the whole learning phase thing is a little bit of theatre. And the reason for that is I've seen plenty of campaigns perform brilliantly during the learning phase, and plenty of other advertisers have launched campaigns that were profitable from day one and they've never looked back. So if the learning phase were generally a period of blind calibration, let's say, then this shouldn't really happen as often as it does. And the reason for that is Google doesn't start from your account from zero. Google draws on massive cross-account auction data across billions of auctions every single day across years and years and years since Google Ads has been there, and your website signals and your feed and your conversion history, etc., etc. So it's actually not as volatile as people think. So I believe, in my opinion, and probably if you're a business owner, you've heard an agency say, oh yeah, the campaign's in the learning phase and it still needs to learn. Well, it can happen, right? And that's what I said just now, knowing what causes it and knowing if it's a genuine problem and knowing that that's the problem in the moment it presents to be a problem, and to recognize that, that's a skill. But to just say, oh yeah, it's still in learning, is the most overused deflection in the industry, in my opinion. It's used by agencies that don't know what they're doing, buy time, by Google reps that try to defer hard questions, or by advertisers who just want to avoid confronting the possibility that maybe their product sucks, or that their offer sucks, or that their strategy is simply wrong. The learning phase has become this magic incantation that means stop asking questions for 2 weeks and just let the Google do its thing. That is not true. You should really, after a very short amount of time, know if something works or doesn't work, and you have to act on that instinct, okay? Yeah, sometimes I've also seen campaigns in an ad account be in the learning phase but actually perform really stable. So I would probably use all of this more of an indicator that that this is something to consider. And that the learning phase is real as a mechanism. So algorithms generally do calibrate on new data, but it's widely overweighted as an explanation for performance. It doesn't explain bad performance, it just explains short-term variance in performance, okay? Volatility is completely normal, failure isn't. And the industry's mistake is to use a variance concept as to excuse a direction problem or performance problem. Okay, so going forward, what is it? Well, I've very much sort of said that it's what it is. I've also mentioned how you can trigger it or not trigger it, what doesn't do it and what does do it. I've also gave you sort of pretty clear and stark opinion on that. I don't think it's as big of a deal as people make, but it's very, very useful to be aware of. And I think that is pretty much it. I think we've landed the plane. And if you want to have just a chat about PPC, just hit me up. Jeremy Young, Google Ads on LinkedIn. Jeremy at younganddigital.marketing. You can also book a one-to-one meeting with me via the website. If you want me to have a look at your Google Ads account and give you an honest opinion on what's going on and what you should do, message me as well. We also recently launched a new offer, done with you service. That means we sort of run the ad account for you as if you are a client for a while, and then give you a structured handover on how to run it yourself over a period of several months. If that's something that you're interested in, head to the website. There will be a new section for that going forward as well. Thank you very much for listening. This has been Jeremy Young, your personal Google Ads expert, and I wish you a happy and productive week ahead.
Thank you for listening to Google Ads Unleashed. To connect with Jeremy, check him out online at www.younganddigital.marketing. We'll see you next time.